Going live now. P- period. Come join us and let's all get smarter. Information below. On YouTube channel. Period. Period. Hey everybody. Where is Nancy Guthrie? Where's Nancy Guthrie? Question mark. Let's break it down. Period. Hey everybody. This is Devil Dog underscore 88. Devil Dog underscore 88. Paige. Good morning. Good morning. Ugh. It's a Thursday, almost before we get to Friday. Sleuth Fairy, morning, Devil Dog. Good morning, Sleuth. Almost TGIF, that is correct. Almost that time to kick back and relax. Well, after Friday, that we should say. So I hope everybody had a good night. I hope yesterday was a good day for all of us, no doubt. Notorious, good morning. Good to have you, Notorious. Ocean Waves from Texas, good morning, Dee. Good morning to you. Celtic Pet, good morning. Norma says, good morning, Dee. Beautiful chat. Amen. I like to think so. I hope so. All right. Just waiting for everybody to come on in. So, what we want to talk about today is going to be literally, we're going to talk about some of the things that literally the timeline now going into what did the Nest camera catch, what did they see, what did they report. We're going to get more a little into the details of that. Good morning, April. We've covered the timeline from literally when this started to the beginning all the way up to the point of them arriving, TNA arriving at Nancy's house, looking for her, Pima County Sheriff's Office arriving, and so forth. We covered all that. If you guys need to go back on some of that stuff, by all means, let me know. Let me know, and we'll go back and touch up on some things. Now, one of the things that we need to talk about that it has been talked about a lot, it's the main thing, is the information of the perp at the front door. Now, there's been many suggestions, many, okay? Many suggestions that literally, is it a woman? Could it have been a woman? A lot of people think it might have been, and I'm not so sure that it's not. It's a very good point. The eyebrows, the eyes, people point to the mustache and whatnot, but that could all be something that you could cosmetically put on just to throw somebody off. Not saying it is, I'm just saying it's a possibility. Good morning, everyone, says Aid. So we really want to talk about literally what about the porch guy or girl at that front camera. Now, apparently, doing some research, I asked the question, why isn't there any other photos or videos from the still camera? And basically, there's not really a good answer other than she didn't have a subscription. I'm sure they could have pulled it. I'm sure they could have had Google, when they went back, look more detail and gather all the information. Just my opinion. I don't know that to be fact, but it would only make sense, right? If you're able to get the perp at the front door, you're able to get maybe cars passing by vaguely, because it's nighttime, you should be able to get somebody pulling in. But that's just my opinion. They're saying nothing about it. So either they're keeping it hush hush or they're using it as an ace in the back pocket so that they can go ahead later and ask the questions. And if someone's lying, they can have the true answers. Good morning, Falls. Good morning. Tori said hi. Good morning, Tori. So that's what we're going to talk about. Now, what I did find is there was a lot of footage. I think there was up to, if I'm not mistaken, there was up to, bear with me, there was up to at least about, I thought, 11 to 13 cars that night that they were able to get different cams, people's cams from their doors in their houses. They were able to get I think it was like 11 or 13 cars that night when Nancy was abducted that had literally came by. Not from Nancy's house, from other houses with the cams, okay? Thank you and good morning and a nice day to you. Good morning. Hoorah. So why is that important? Well, that's early in the morning, right? There was a couple cars or a car that they was hauling ass down the road that they were able to capture a lot of these vehicles going by from other cameras, not from Nancy's, from other cameras. Which then you would beg to ask the question, is it possible that the perp or perps who were involved in this parked that car down the road, lights off, inconspicuous, and waiting for that moment to maybe pull up and pick up Nancy, right? It's common sense. Angela, good morning. So the idea is, if cameras were able to get that many cars going by, which is not a lot, take those pictures or try to get those photos as enhanced as possible, and now break down those cars that really don't belong in that neighborhood. These are just thoughts and ideas. Break down those cars as best as possible to see where they belong. Do they belong in that neighborhood? Are they from there? Okay? And it's important. It's very important because it'll tell you that car doesn't exist here. In other words, it doesn't, there's no one that drives that car that lives here, right? So that's one thing you could do. You could do that by literally breaking down the footage. And that's what I was talking about yesterday. We were talking about it's easier to find a vehicle than it is to find a body because a vehicle is much bigger and you're prone to see a vehicle than you are something underground or something, in a bush or whatever the case may be, right? It's just common sense. So the idea is that you look for a vehicle, okay? And here's the thing. They had, I think it was 11 to 13 vehicles that they were able to capture that night on that road, okay? Or around in that neighborhood. So then why not take those, and maybe they have, I don't know. I'm not going to sell them short because maybe they have. take those vehicles and start going around, checking to the neighborhood and see if in fact they belong there. And if they don't, sit it aside as a possible interest of a vehicle. Little Red B, I'm here. Hit the thumb and listen. Good morning. Good morning, Little Red B. Good to have you. So you could break the car down, sit the ones that don't belong there aside, and the ones that belong there, break it apart. And then maybe, just maybe, you're able to go back a few months, okay? Probably be a month, maybe in what, December, all of January, maybe, and go from all of January to maybe up to February the 10th, maybe, or so, and see what car passes by there that is similar to the car that shouldn't be there. Once again, these are just ideas and suggestions, okay? And they've probably done this. I don't know. But here's the thing. Once you're able to identify a car that has come through there that night that doesn't belong there, you might get lucky. And you may be able to narrow that car down and find out who does that car belong to. If that is possible, you might be able to see on the cameras from these other houses exactly what or how many people were in that car. You remember there was the point where there was a 911 call, right? And the lady called 911 about the lady screaming out the window. Okay? Now, that lady who heard it, she actually heard it, and that was late, early in the morning. She heard it. She saw the car. She gave the description of the car. Okay, maybe not much, but she said it was a dark, possibly black or blue vehicle with a woman hanging out, screaming for help, right? So there is a possibility that somebody could have saw something, but at the time, just didn't think that it really meant anything. Because that's what we do. Why didn't Spidey Cash give an update during the recent interview? I don't know. I'm not sure, Paige. Uh, very good question. So so now the idea becomes you locate that vehicle that doesn't belong in the neighborhood and you start breaking it down. You start trying to figure. Thank you. You start breaking it down as to who is it possible that that car belongs to. For example, the blue car. They did end up stopping it, right? They did end up stopping it. We just don't know what time they stopped it, but they did end up stopping it. Okay. Did they take any information of it? Who was all in there? You know, what was the storyline behind it? Why were they ladies screaming from that vehicle? Okay. It's just that simple. Because the caller of the 911 specifically said there was someone hanging out of the window and it sounded like a woman screaming for help. Okay. So the idea then literally becomes that did they get all the information? Did they document all the information? Did they write out all the information? Angela, Grace, Norma. So now what you have is you have something to go on. You may not find that car. But if you don't look, you're definitely not going to find it, right? It's just common sense. April, Savannah walked off yesterday's show. It seemed unexpectedly. Seems expectantly. They may have a lead. That may be a very good sign that they may have a lead. Or it could be something that struck a nerve with her that she had to walk off. Good morning, Little Red. Good morning. Hi, Carol. How are you, Lisa? Alley Cat's in the house. Good morning. Good to see you. Tennessee. Wow, April, thanks. Carol Burton. So now we have literally a potential vehicle that we can follow because you separated those cars that don't belong in that neighborhood, right? Okay. Unexpectedly, I meant. Okay, April, got you. So Savannah yesterday left the set unexpectedly, just walked off the set. Very well be an update of information. Celtic Pet, I am very good, thank you. Norma, good morning, Carol. So now what we have is we break that car down and we go back maybe a month prior, maybe even 2 months prior. Go back as far as we can, as far as those cameras will allow us to, and go back and go all the way up to maybe the end of February. Because what do they say? They say that suspects usually come back to the scene of the crime, right? Okay. So that's very important. Very important. Okay. And now you're able to draw a picture of what you're looking for. Hey, there's been a lot of cases that have been solved by finding a vehicle. Many, I would say probably the majority of the cases is because someone identifies the vehicle. So maybe that's something that they ought to do if they're not already doing it. They may be on it. No doubt about it. So the other thing that we want to look at is the porch guy, right? Was he there? Did it seem like he was there just for decoration? In other words, just to throw off things? Was he there to distract the mind? Because here's the thing: anybody that's in front of that house is going to draw attention. Correct? Anybody that's in front of the house is going to draw attention. Maybe not at that time of day, as far as that time of night or early morning. But my point is, there's always that potential of someone driving by and going, "What is that? Did I just see something?" You know what I'm saying? Is that somebody walking over there? You just never know. So why take that chance, right? And he wasn't moving very fast. Jody, I think they're doing Mother's Day content, maybe difficult for Savannah, so she stepped. That's a very good possibility, Jody, no doubt. That makes a lot of sense, no doubt. Does anyone know how to invert a picture? I'm not sure, Falls. I'd have to look that up. April, did they check into the vehicle with the lady out the window? April says. They did. They actually, Nanos actually said they stopped that vehicle. But all he said about that vehicle, because it was asked to him at one of his earlier press conferences, he said they did stop the vehicle, and then all he said was it had nothing to do with the Nancy Guthrie case. Like everything else. What he didn't say is what time did they stop that vehicle from the time the 911 call came in. What he didn't say was, did they say how many passengers were in the vehicle? I guess it's very possible he said, I really don't have the details. Just know it wasn't related to the Guthrie case. And the reason I say that is because he has used that same line. When they ask specific questions, he'll say, I'm really not sure. I have to see, but it doesn't have anything to do with this, or it doesn't have anything to do with that, or I'm not really sure right now. Next question. That's how he answers a lot of stuff that he doesn't want to say. I don't know if you all figured that out, but that's what he does. So that's one reason I'm saying that it's very possible that when asked, that was his whole reasoning. Because he did say, we stopped the vehicle. It had nothing to do with the Guthrie case. Next question. Right? He didn't give any details. He didn't give any information. But that's what Nanos does. Maybe he just feels that that's all he has to say. Falls, does anyone know how to invert a picture? April. Yes. Angela. Yes, Jody. TJ, I read she had a prior appointment to attend to. Who did, TJ? Who had a prior appointment to attend to? Porch guy gives me the major creeps, and that's the scariest picture I think I've ever seen. TJ, there's a color invert setting on your phone. False, thanks, TJ. TJ, I used it to view photo negatives. Savannah posted to her Instagram story, but it was irrelevant and meaningless and not related to Nancy. April, okay, thanks, Lisa. You're welcome. TJ, Savannah did. April, okay, thanks. Angela, thanks. So my point is, he doesn't give a lot of information even when he's asked specific questions. We've seen that through all the evidence, right? We've seen that through all his not the evidence, but through all his interviews, right? The few that he did at the beginning, that's what he always did. Do we know how many this? Do we know how many that? I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. Next question. Okay, that's his MO. So the reason that it's important is because you could know if in fact how much time it took and did they have the time. If you know who was all in the vehicle, you could then know, is it a lot enough time? Like if it was stopped 3 minutes after the call, that's not a whole lot of time. But if it was 15, 20 minutes down the road, well, heck, you could have got rid of the person who was screaming by taking him out of the car, right? Or if at that point that person became unalive, you definitely want to get rid of that body as soon as possible. So that way, in case you get stopped. And ironically, they had to have been frustrated because they called 911. Who knows? Maybe they had a scanner and they heard it and they said, shoot, we got to get rid of this body. Put it somewhere over here. We'll come back later. And if she's unalive, then they're going to stick the body somewhere. They're going to go in hopes that they don't get stopped. And eventually they get stopped and they go, man, we lucked out. Next thing you know, they come back a couple hours later, 3 hours later, get the body, still dark, put it in the trunk, haul it, bury it. Case closed, right? So there's a lot of things that could have happened. That's why I don't like the premise that literally we don't know any information about who was driving or how many passengers were in the car or what makes this not about the Guthrie case. I mean, you would think it would be an important and it would be a presser, a question, okay, by the press to press that answer. Well, how many people was it? How many people was it in there? Do we know? Oh, yeah, I'm not really sure. Or, yeah, there's 3 people, or there's 2 people, or just one person. Yeah, he was yelling at himself. Makes no sense, right? So the idea is that you definitely want to go ahead and press that question because it's a very important question. Norm said Brian Etten off News Nation had 2 criminal profilers saying the perp could be unalive by the mastermind. That is true. I watched that. And it's very possible. I mean, it happens a lot where the mastermind basically sets it all up, and then once the mission's completed, or who knows, maybe the perp, everybody's throwing out all the ideas of who this Porsche guy may be. Maybe somebody has hit it right on the money, and that Porsche guy then starts getting a hold of the mastermind and says, "Man, I don't know, man. They're on to me. They're on to me." And then he says, "Calm down, just relax." And then in his mind, he says, "Man, I got to take this guy out because if not, he's going to break and crack under pressure, and he's going to throw me out with him." And then he goes out, "Hey, meet me at such and such place. You know, I got some money for you. Blah 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 blah." And then they meet, and then kapow kapow, and the story. Very possible. That stuff happens a lot. The things that I'm telling you do happen quite a bit. So it's not like, oh, well, that's kind of far fetched. No, that happens a lot. The mastermind's always is your best friend until he's not. And you have to remember there's no loyalty among thieves or criminals for that matter. There's no loyalty. Lisa said, be right back. Allie K, can you please explain why allegedly Sue Ellen didn't get served a warrant to receive her camera Just don't believe it. Because she doesn't have to give up that camera, Allie. Nothing. They can't make her give up something that they have no idea that was involved in a case. If they knew that that was involved in a case, they could make her give it up. You can't serve somebody and say, we want your equipment. That's not how it works. That's your privacy. That's your right. Now, if they were able to say she was involved in the crime, right, that's a different story. If they were able to say, well, so, you know, and this is just not saying she was, I'm just using this as an example. If they were able to say that Sue Ellen was involved, somebody had dropped her name, she was involved in the crime, then they could search a search warrant for her house and then take that video cameras, right? But they can't just take something just because they want it. That's why they ask everybody, would you please give us, the footage so that we can go ahead and figure out what we might have missed or what your camera could have got that would be helpful in this case. But there is no such thing as making someone give you something when it has nothing to do with the case until it does. You know what I mean? That's usually how it works here in Ohio. I don't know how Arizona does their thing. Didi, what do you think about the man deceased in the burning white van whose friend posted about it and said he wouldn't have done that to himself? Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question. And I think that's a very interesting question. I think, they have to identify the individual by now, right? And I would look at that individual. I would definitely look at his background, pull up his rap sheet if he has one, see who's acquainted with, see if there's any affiliation with any one of these perps that we have already talked about. Find out his backstory because it may lead you to something because that is a good way and that is a good possible way. And I think this was during the time when a lot of stuff was going on, right? So that could be it could very well be that little nugget that everybody's missing that no one's checking out, right? You go and you find out information and you see what his profile is, where he fits in the puzzle. Does he, or this is just someone who just decided, hey, life isn't worth it. I'm paying too much high gas prices. You never know. But you're very right. That's what you would do, and I think he could very fall under this. Maybe he's the guy that was a porch guy. We don't really know. But that is a damn good question. Good job. Good question. No doubt about it. Do I think that it could be him? I don't know why it wouldn't be him. Hell, I'm looking at somebody screaming from a car, and I don't get the answers that I'm looking for from Pima County Sheriff's Office. And that's, I mean, during the exact time when Nancy was taken, in that time frame. So how do we just quickly say, well, that had nothing to do with it, as Nanos did? But that's a very good point, Angela. No doubt about it. I believe they need to look more into that because that doesn't make any sense as to, they have to try to figure out why. Why did this car was set on fire and this person takes his life or whatever the case may be? I don't think. I mean, it just doesn't make sense until you do his background. Maybe you find out he was a schizophrenic that had a lot of mental issues, and he was, couldn't get a break and was going through all these difficult issues. Then it kind of would make sense, but I would still follow the lead to wherever it took you. And then when you get to the point where there's nothing there, well, then you move on. But good question. Norma, Didi, yes, I agree. TJ, okay, TJ says, I've done that and it does look like a vehicle on the street. There you go. Good job, TJ. Al says, is it possible that this was a 911 call? Just wondering. You're talking about the 911 call, the lady screaming from the door? Or are you talking about a 911 call for the car that Angela was talking about being burned? I'm not sure which one you're talking about. But let me know, L. Falls, gotcha. TJ Wheeler, that burning van was suspicious to me as well. All they got to do is run the plate, take some DNA if they can get it. I think the body was charred. Find out and run it. You know, see what his connections are to that area. See what his connections are to, if any, to maybe he's a friend of somebody that we have talked about before, or that Pima County Sheriff's or the FBI have suspects in their mind and they're able to connect the dot, right? Because I do believe they have suspects. I also believe they just can't put them in that right position, in that right setting, in my opinion. I'll be back. My doctor is blowing up the phone. Okay, Falls. Angela, agree, TJ. Aid, in my opinion, the porch guy was a distraction while something else was going on. And that's very possible, Aid. My only issue with the porch guy, why are you going to be out there in the front of the house? Even if you are a distraction, I would counter that to say, are you more prone that somebody could see you? I know it's dark and I know you can't see very well, but what is that possibility of that chance? Let's just say that, Pima County, a deputy is doing his rounds, because when you do your rounds, you go out to those areas and you just kind of shine your lights and keep driving. Usually every law enforcement vehicle has a spotlight, right? You just kind of look, okay, nothing going on, nothing going on. That's what you normally do when you're doing patrol, right? You'll come into an area and you'll check with your light, not your flashlight, your car light. There's a car light that's attached by the door, and you just kind of. What are the chances that that could have happened? It's probable. So why take the chance on being out there in the front, walking like a turtle, so slow, so damn slow, like you have all the time in the world, and not be worried about if anybody is going to be driving by? I just think there's too much risk there. There's way too much risk. So, in my opinion, I would think that there was a reason why he was doing this. Distraction? You want to be a distraction for what? For what would you want to be a distraction for? You're saying, hey, everybody, look at me when something else is going on. Well, no one's seeing anybody doing anything because it's too dark. So I'm not sure what the distraction would be for, in my opinion, in all honesty, Aid. But if you got something, by all means, let me know, because I would love to, hear everybody's point, no doubt. I was thinking the same thing, says Norma. What would be let's talk about that. What would be the distraction that you would be causing? Why would you be doing that as a distraction? Fill me out, please. Let me know, because two people now are saying that, so let's hear it. Norma, okay. TJ, the porch guy feels theatrical, and staged for a distraction to who is really involved, in my opinion. But my point is, what is the distraction going to buy? What is he buying for? You know what I mean? If they take the victim, and feel me on this, if they take the victim from the back, right? No one sees it, right? The front guy is a distraction to what? Mislead what? That there was a person there and that Nancy has already been taken. And so now we follow that lead of that person who's at the front door. That if they end up catching, they're going to go ahead and try to get every information about him. And they're going to probably blame him for the missing of Nancy, right? So what is the distraction? Fill me in. I mean, what are you gaining, I guess, by doing the distraction theory? What are you gaining? What is being gained other than you could be seen by somebody at the front door? You could be seen by somebody driving by. I'm just curious. Good point. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. The plans he took to the camera and the ballot step did it for me. Just a distraction, plain and simple. Okay, I understand that, Abe, but explain to me, what is the gain of the distraction? I hear what you're saying, but there has to be a gain of the distraction. When you distract something, is because you're saying, hey, look at me over here, don't pay attention over there, right? But hey, look at me over here at the middle of 2 o'clock in the morning, dressed with all covered, mask, gloves, coat, backpack, and everything. What is the distraction? What is the gain? Because at the end of the day, everybody is going to try to figure out who is that person, to figure out what connection that person has. And if they can get any type of any bit of evidence on this person, then they're going to go ahead and that person is going to be the number one suspect, right? Even though it may be a distraction in your eyes, what is the gain? I guess is what I'm asking. Makes no sense why she didn't turn it over unless she is doing something she shouldn't be, maybe spying on her neighbors, not necessary in the Nancy case. Yeah, if you can't show anything, there's nothing you can get, in all honesty. You can't get a camera no matter what. Now, you have to be able to prove that she's involved in this crime at some point, because then you could go ahead and serve her a warrant and then go ahead and confiscate the camera and everything else, phones and all, you know. But I'm still interested to know, what is the distraction, everybody? Fill me in, please. I'm surprised to hear that. Why, Alley Cat? I mean, how can you serve a warrant to somebody who has nothing to do with anything and say, I want your camera? Well, it's my camera. You're not getting my camera. You know what I mean? Like, we all have, there's privacy rights. There's things that we have rights that you can't just come, even the law enforcement just can't come to anybody and take something from them unless it's involved, or it's involved in the case, as in, you know, a suspect, or that video was recorded, a crime being committed. Okay, well, how does that affect the person who owns that camera? I'm not sure I see the connection there, but I'm still into, I want to know, what is the distraction for? Can somebody help me out here, please? Where is the part that I'm on call of Annie speaking to the dispatch is what I want to hear, says TJ. Where is the part of the 911 call of Annie? Well, that too, yeah. They apparently have it because there was a 911 call. I did hear the 911 call. All they have to do is show the people the 911 call. You're right. You know, how else is the sheriff's department going to get there if they don't know where to go? You know what I mean? So, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, yeah, show us the 911 call. I agree. Marianne, hey, y'all. Good to have you, Marianne. 911 call was deleted. I have no idea if it was deleted, Capture. I have no idea to make that claim. I don't know if it was deleted. If you know when they deleted, or why, or how it happened, let us know, please. Norma, good morning, Mary. Capture out, no call. Wi-Fi was out, no call. Well, the idea is that I don't know if a call was made or not. I don't know if in fact you said they deleted it. Why would they have deleted it? If you know something, let us know, please. All the information is the better. Al says, from Annie, the 911 call, do we know if it really happened? I mean, they don't turn it over, right? Just curious. Right. I don't know. I mean, I would think that on a case like this, that they're going to try to play it by the book. Everybody's going to play it by the book, and they're going to say, hey, yeah, hey, I got a 911. That's the easiest thing for someone on the law enforcement side to answer that phone. They know it's a serious call. That's why they don't like people calling the police departments on 911 when they have the regular channel number, right? So, yeah, I would ask that same question. Did it really happen? I don't know. I'm taking it at face value. It does make sense that Annie or someone would have called 911. So I don't know. I can't answer that because I really don't know. Exactly. Capture 5603. Why is that being hidden from the public? I have no idea if it was being hidden. If you guys know that it was being hidden, by all means, let me know. Let me know. I would love to know that theory. Just investigates. You watched CW for Nancy Guthrie last night. I did. I actually seen that. TJ says Sue Ellen has an anthropology degree, laughing out loud. Okay. She's a smart lady when it comes to anthropology. Capture. Hi, Justin. Alley Cat. I found that I can issue a warrant to neighbor for security camera footage, but rarely do for minor incidents. It requires proven probable cause of a crime to a judge. Right. Probable crime to a judge of a crime that they are involved in, not just any crime. Okay? You have to show how that literally that camera is involved in a crime. You can't just say, I want that camera, I want your camera, your privacy, anything you have, just like a car. They couldn't just go get the car of LD, right? They had to have a reason, probable cause. Hey, LD, we think you might have been the one who did it. We want your car. I'm going to issue a warrant. Okay, well, that doesn't fly. Why? Because you got to have probable cause. Any warrant has to have probable cause. So what is a probable cause that you would use, Alley Cat, in getting her camera? Well, it might have took photos, or it might have captured something. Mighta, woulda doesn't fly. You have to have probable cause. There has to be solid probable cause in anything when you're getting a warrant. So I'm not sure how you're going to issue a warrant for a camera that you can't sustain a probable cause to a judge that somehow this is affiliated, that somehow she's affiliated with the crime. Doesn't make sense to me. Hello? Follow me? TJ, exactly, Alley Cat. Why is that not Where is the probable cause? I found that I can issue a warrant to a neighbor for security camera footage, but rarely do so for minor incidents. It requires proven probable cause. What is the probable cause? What is the probable cause of this camera? Ask yourself that question. What is the probable cause you're using? I get the probable cause. I know what probable cause is, but what is it that you're using as probable cause? I can issue a warrant to neighbors for security camera footage, but rarely do for minor incidents. It requires proven probable cause of a crime to a judge. Right. Right. Exactly. It requires probable cause to a judge. Probable cause means somehow this camera is affiliated with this crime. Well, what's the probable cause? It was there running. Well, that's what a camera's supposed to be doing. It's supposed to run. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? What is the breakdown of the probable cause? It's not just that there was a crime committed. You have to have more substance to show why that camera can literally be a piece of this crime setting. You understand what I'm saying? And I guess really it's going to be how you language it, how you write out your probable cause, and if a judge just seems that, okay, that seems like it merits it, or just says, you got to have more than that, you know? I mean, what would be the difference of a car? You know, Daly, you were in the area, you know, LD, you were in the area of this crime. Your Honor, we want to get probable cause to search that vehicle. It was in the area seen during this time of the crime. That's not enough. You're going to have to show how it's involved in this crime. I'm just saying that's how it works out here. I don't know how it works everywhere else, but that's all I'm saying. To obtain a warrant, police must demonstrate to a judge that the footage holds evidence of a suspected crime. Right. And how are you going to be able to tell a judge that her footage holds evidence of a suspected crime. How do you prove that is what I'm asking. I'm not trying to be difficult here. I'm just trying to explain, how do you prove, I've worked in law enforcement, how do you prove to a judge that that video literally has footage of a crime? You don't know that. I don't know that. No one knows that. You have to have more reasonable than just to say the right words. It has to be something specific. So what is that something specific? And then it's going to be the interpretation of the judge. I've just never seen anybody be able to literally ask for a camera because it was close by a house that could have captured information. Could have, would have, that doesn't matter. What is your probable cause? It's almost like, what is your reasoning? And it's got to be substantial reasoning, not just something you throw out there. Just saying. But hey, if it doesn't hurt to try, I guess. And I think they would have done that already, don't you? They would have done that. They would have went literally to her house and said, "Here's a warrant. We need your camera." But they know they can't because there's no probable cause. A judge is not going to sign off on that. Most judges won't. Probably all of them won't. That's why they haven't done it. Nitro, witness protection. That is very possible. Marianne, good morning, all. April, I think he was there to watch for traffic in and saw the camera. That's okay. That's possible. That's possible. But the chances that you're putting yourself out there, that you're there to watch for traffic, even though you have your back the whole time and not paying attention to the traffic, and you have your back to the road, how are you even seeing any traffic? Because he's over there fidgeting with the flowers, he's fidgeting with the camera, he's trying to block this and that. So what is he really monitoring? Other than taking the chance that somebody could see him out front and then call 911 and say, "Hey, I thought I saw somebody at that residence 2 o'clock in the morning," and yeah, it looked really fishy. You know what I mean? But those are all good questions. I'm just asking you, and please don't take it the wrong way, but I'm just asking the reasons behind it. You know what I mean? TJ Wheeler, I think Porsche guy was hired to remove the camera and divert the investigation. Almost there. I would say he was hired to take the camera so they could come out the front door, maybe. If plans had changed and not going through the back door, it's possible he was there to take that front camera out. But there is no distraction. There's no distracting of the investigation. Because by taking that camera out, you are a part of this crime. So the porch guy was hired to remove the camera to divert the investigation. Absolutely. At that point, you're right. Yeah, so he's part of the crime. Take the camera so they don't see us, and that way they can't see who's doing this crime. I agree with that. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. That's but you stated that a lot different than the other one. I think the porch guy was there to hire to remove the camera to divert the investigation. Yeah. You're basically hurting the investigation because they can't see anybody or everybody who's involved, right? That makes perfect sense to me. Because then you would have a reason to be up there. You're not just out there in the front of a house taking a chance of someone seeing you. The reason you're out there is because you're trying to literally, the plan is get rid of the camera so they can't see who it is. And then that's going to help the whole situation. Absolutely. Because you're part of this plan, this plot. You're not just there to look over here, everybody, I'm right here when somebody else is doing something over there, because the simple fact that it doesn't matter what somebody's doing over there. When that person goes missing and if they're able to identify you because you're right there in front of that camera, guess what? You're the number one suspect. I mean, so that's a good point, TJ. That right there, I could see that. I feel like the same thing with the cactus napper. down the street to divert the investigation. That's possible. That's possible. Or to send a message. It's possible. You know what's going to divert the investigation? That someone's going to go, okay, we need to put a cop out there more. Okay? We need to put a cop out there constantly. Because now we got people, getting off their truck, going, picking up, taking people's plants, putting them in their truck and just leaving. Like it's okay to take someone else's property. So therefore, let's put a cop out there. Hey, we want constant patrol out there. So now instead of getting, every 15, 20 minutes, every 30 minutes, every 45 minutes where a car would drive by, now you're maybe seeing it every 15, 20 minutes. You know what I mean? Makes sense, right? But yeah, very well could be. Little Red B, maybe the porch perp was to make it look like T wasn't involved. I mean, that's possible. I guess that's possible. But here's the thing, folks. No matter what the porch guy is doing, no matter what that porch guy is doing, okay, look at the basic facts. No matter what the porch guy is doing, the reality is he is part of this crime. So you're going to try to protect someone else, but you're going to put yourself in the line of fire. Think about that for a minute. You're going to try to do something to protect someone not knowing that it's, in this case, for example, that it's T. So you're going to put yourself in the line of fire so that you can protect someone else. That don't make no sense. The whole point of a diversion is you're doing something over here so someone can be over there robbing a bank. You're over here with an accident. You stage an accident so that everybody comes here while everybody's over there robbing a bank or robbing a store or robbing whatever. That's a diversion. That would be why you're using a diversion for. You know what I mean? The fact that you're trying to say, what's going on over here? Look over here. Don't look over here. That's what that would be used for. But in a crime, there is no distraction because you're right there in front of the camera. So you're not distracting anything. If anything, you're putting yourself in the line of fire, right? Does that make sense? Just trying to break this down. I hope it makes sense because it does to me because of my experience. A said, one answer could be that there's only one person involved and no more people. Well, then that front guy is your main guy if there's only one person involved, right? So then he's not there for a distraction. He's there to commit a crime, right? So if it is one person, then that's your person. So there's no distraction. He's just trying to be that individual. I think there's 2 to 3, maybe even as much as 4, in my opinion. But you follow me? If in fact he is the only part, well then he's not distracting anybody. You know what I mean? Hey, everybody, look, I'm right here. This is what I'm doing. Don't look over there. Oh, wait, there's nobody over there. I'm right here. You follow what I'm saying? Like, you may be right. That it could be one person. Paula, I don't think that the porch guy was supposed to go to the front door at all. He was going to knock, but just surprised by the camera. Then he tried to remove it. That's a very good possibility. And that does make a lot of sense because, but then again, you go, man, didn't they case this place out? Didn't these people go and look at, what was going on in this area? Didn't they do their research to know there was a camera there? But if in fact that's true, which is very probable, it's very possible, if that's true, then were they really that smart? Were they really that intelligent to pull this off? Were they really that, how can we say, perfectionists in a crime, covering all loose ends? Good point. No doubt about it, Paula. No doubt about it. He could have went up there and said, oh, shit, we got a camera up here. And then said, okay, I got to get rid of this thing. Very possible. But he's there for the crime, not for a distraction. He's there to literally make sure that no one gets caught. Because if someone gets caught, they're all going to end up taking the potential of getting caught. Does that make sense? Brenda, good morning, Devil Dog and Mods and Pups. Norma, good morning, Brenda. Brenda, Norma, good morning. Song, good morning. Song, what did I miss? Just having a conversation. On Jen, FBI, she thinks Perp used flowers to help with grip because the gloves were oversized. Yeah, it's possible. That is very possible, April. I mean, I don't know if that's factual, but it's very possible. On Jen, the FBI, she thinks Perp used flowers to help with grip because the gloves were oversized. It's very possible. Maybe it was a woman. Maybe that who the front person of the porch was a woman, and she couldn't get a good grip, and she had too large of gloves. It's possible. Although those gloves on that person on that hand, if you remember right, those gloves were tight. They were like tight fit. They weren't loose. You know what I mean? So they were tight. So many things that seem out of place or cover up. That's why I'm questioning if there's a call. No, I understand now because many have tried to get it, but we haven't heard any part of it. But then could be a reason. I mean, you're exactly right, L. We haven't got any information. None, zero, nada. Click that like, everybody. Click that like if you like the live. If this is really good information for you, click the like. Send the emojis. Let's get the algorithms going. Because many have tried to get it. There's a lot of things that we should know that won't compromise the case, right? But yet, for whatever reasons, they're not giving us that information. And there may be a reason behind it. I don't know. Because I'm not privy to see what they have. I can only go on my law enforcement instincts. And that is why they're probably dealing with the lack of support from their people who live in that area because they're not telling anybody nothing. Angela L, I agree 100%. Hey, Song, I talk to myself a lot and I worry about it being caught on my doorbell camera. Maybe she's like that. It's very possible. That's possible. Angela, I started wondering about that this morning randomly. I mean, something good to think, no doubt about it. Regardless, legalities aside, if my neighbor is missing and I am turning my camera over voluntarily to help, but SE is showing she don't care about finding that's exactly what it looks like. She doesn't care 2 cents. And you're exactly right, April. She doesn't care 2 cents because if she did, she'd be turning her camera over for the better good of helping out to try to solve this case of her neighbor being abducted. And that makes perfect sense. No doubt about it. Marianne, people have to stop thinking every time Savannah leaves the show, it's because of the case. She has kids. It could be anything. That is true. That's very true, Marianne. TJ, I agree, April. Alicat, interesting. Thank you, DD. Right. All these are great questions. Every one of you, great questions. And the idea is that, looking at the legalities of how things could go or what things could be, there's a lot there. And it's not easy. It's not easy. And I'm sure we have prior law enforcement in this chat. We have prior officers, probably even prior FBI people. And the reality is this: I don't know everything, and I'll never claim to know everything. The only thing I can base it is on my professional experience. And I know how judges do things when they issue warrants. And it's very difficult. A warrant, it's almost like you're signing your name to something that could come back to bite you in the ass. You know what I mean? And they don't want to look stupid. And that's why a lot of these judges are so hesitant. They're like, you got to have more. You got to have more. Why? Because they're not going to put themselves out on a limb. They're just not going to do it, you know? And so I hope this has been informational for you all because it's been informational for me because you guys are literally, you're testing my skills. And yeah, those are all great questions and I love it, you know? And that's just, but could it be? Could they do something? I've seen worse departments pull off crazier things. So, hey, if it works, go for it. Try it. What do you have to lose, right? Brenda, April, I totally agree. Norma, April, Alley Cat, I don't think Sue Ellen is involved, but if I could be there, that could see the per car. Absolutely. I totally agree, Alley Cat. 100%. L, true, April. Marianne, I definitely see a car on the picture that Juice posted. I'll have to take a look at that. If you want, send me that picture. I would love to see it. A song says, "Is this happened to my neighbor? I'd be out there in my socks, immediately taking to law enforcement, talking to law enforcement, giving them my password and everything to." Absolutely, absolutely, no doubt about it. But then, if you're one of those persons that you really don't like cops, and you really like, maybe there's some shady issues with you, you're not going to want to do anything for anyone. You know what I mean? But I agree. I think all of us would, just by hearing every one of you guys and your questions, I think all of us would say, "Here you go, officer. Here's my camera. Please get it back to me. Here's the name." They take her name down and everything because it's now going to be used as evidence, especially if they find something in it. But to make sure you get it back, just make sure you get it back to me. And who knows? Maybe she's done this before where she's given her camera and never got it back and thought, "Oh, hell no, I'm not doing this shit again." There's so many things, possibilities here, everybody. So many different possibilities. Lisa says, "I'm driving to Michigan while listening." Sounds good. Sounds good, Lisa. Norma, safe driving, Lisa. Why I need the camera to see if it does. Why I need the camera to see if it does right. But that's the thing. If someone doesn't want to do that, they don't have to. And that's where that word probable cause comes in. Gotta have probable cause to be able to get that camera from somebody. But I totally agree with you. Yeah, there's many cases, many cases that if you could just grab something that would show some evidence, and it's in the house, or it's in the garage, or wherever it's at, and if you could just get a hold of it, you would have it. But then they say, "Well, how did you attain it?" "Well, I just got it." How? You got to tell them how you got it. Then all that doesn't matter. And then you go get a warrant, and they say, "Well, how you know it's there?" "I just got a gut feeling." Never happened on a gut feeling. I just know it's there. I just know it's in there. Well, it might be, but if it's not, it's our ass. We're gonna get sued. You follow me? So there's so many different dynamics that you have to look at everything. But I agree with what you're saying. I totally understand. April, Didi, you're the expert. I appreciate how our opinions are explained to us, why maybe that didn't happen. I mean, honestly, I'm just giving you guys are asking great questions. Great questions. I'm just being honest. You guys are asking great questions, and I love it. And if I sound like, "Oh, he's just telling me that I can't get this," it's nothing about that. I'm just saying that there's legality issues that you have to look at. Now, I can tell you this is pretty standard across the board. There's not like, when I say, "Well, I don't know how Arizona does it," what I'm really saying is they're all the same. Everybody does things very similar. There may be different quirks here and there, but it's just a nice way of saying it's just it's just the way everybody's taught. I can go to the academy in Ohio, go to the academy in Oklahoma, go to the academy in Arizona, and you know what? All those things are going to be universal. Okay, they're going to be universal. The only thing on the legal block, they're going to be universal. The only difference may be some things that they require that they don't on other things. You know what I mean? But they're going to be very minute. The meat of the bone of the main thing is going to be the same. Why? Because you got to have uniformity. Otherwise, people would do some things in some states and not in other states. You know what I mean? It's just trying to everybody. It's almost like you want consistency across the board. So in order to get consistency, you have a rule for everybody. There's some little dynamics and little wiggle rooms here and there, but for the most part, it's all the same. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that, and thank you, April. Appreciate that. Angela, safe travels, Lisa. Brenda, song 5 years ago, we had the sheriff office looking at our camera because of a drive-by shooting of the neighbor house. They used a flash drive to copy what was on our cameras. Awesome. That's awesome. And that's great that you guys allowed that. But it was involved. There was a shooting. It was a good chance. And everybody cooperated. That's the key. Everybody cooperated. And therefore they were able to get the flash drive and get that information. Nothing wrong with that, no doubt. If the house was staged, why weren't more things disturbed, like drawers dumped out or things knocked over? Yeah, I follow you there, song. You would think that they would have, if it was a staged thing. You're right. Never even thought of that, but you're right. Why weren't things disturbed to make it look like they ransacked the place, like they were looking for something? Because right now you're hearing, well, everything was nice and neat, so they didn't take anything, so it can't be a burglary. But if you wanted people to think it was a burglary, right, you would turn over dressers and this and that and make it a big freaking mess so they could go, oh man, whoever came in here, they were looking for something. Good, very good damn point there, Song. Excellent point. And you're right. So that theory of, well, this was a burglary. Look, I heard the thing today in the morning with Enton and three individuals on a panel. And the one lady said, the younger lady said, and I don't know her name, but she said, uh, technically, going into a house is burglary. So technically, that goes without saying. It's a burglary, and then whatever happens after that, it's another crime and a crime. But see, the reality, it's not a burglary. Okay, it could be an unlawful entry. No one gave you permission to come in. It could be um, breaking an entry. It only becomes a burglary when you start taking things out, right? Now you say, well, isn't taking a person out a person is an object? Well, yeah, but that's why they would call it kidnapping. You're taking someone by their force. So the idea that this is a burglary, that's not the case. It would be a breaking and entering, even though if you just turn the door handle and open the door because she kept it unlocked and you walk in, it's still a you follow me? It's still a breaking and entering. You're coming into a dwelling that no one gave you permission to come into. And there's so many statutes under under burglary and under breaking and entering. There's so many statutes within that statute. And what I mean by that, it's like there's so many A, B, C's, and D's. A person can come in and it's this, but if they go ahead and do this, then that makes this. And if they go ahead and do that, well, that makes this. You follow me? So there's I mean, it's broken down to where you're going to put the right statute, you know. And when it goes to your prosecutor, he's going to tell you, hey, change the statute. Don't put robbery. Don't put burglary. Nothing was taken that anybody knows of. Okay, so put in there, just put breaking and entering. Even though they didn't break anything to enter, breaking and entering, you would think they chiseled it or they used some type of crowbar or they used something, they picked the locks to break in. All they did is turn the handle and open it and walked in. Let's just say hypothetically. So there's so many statutes within that statute of burglary that there's many different parts and kinds that all fit this narrative, but they're specific things. Entering a dwelling without permission, that's a charge. And entering a dwelling without the person's permission, it sounds like a breaking and entering, right? But you're just entering. But all of a sudden, you commit a crime while you did that. So you went from this level of a severity of a crime. Now you're going to this level. You follow me? You're going to this level because now You literally are taking somebody. But then all of a sudden, that's kidnapping or taking somebody by force, right? But then all of a sudden, that person ends up passing and becoming unalive. Now that charge is going to come up to this level, and that's going to be involuntary manslaughter or something to that effect. I didn't mean to do it, Judge. And she just happened to go ahead and her heart gave out. Yeah, but because you did this and this, that's what caused her heart to give out. Follow me? That's how usually it goes. Sorry, I didn't mean to take too much time. Alley Cat, what? I'm baffled. I believe you. I'm sorry. I'm just shocked. I thought there was cause. What was the probable cause? What was the probable cause? What was the probable cause? Allie, hang on, everybody. I want to know what the probable cause was, because obviously there's a. All right, I'll get to it here in a sec. Let me read them all so I can catch up. House was staged. Why weren't more things disturbed like drawers? Totally agree. Alley Cat. What? I'm baffled. Left on. I believe you. I'm sorry. I'm just shocked. I thought there was cause. Cause for what? Explain. Angela, a song. Yes, 100%. Norm, good question. Song, good, Jen, Brenda. L, Porch guy being there could just prove it wasn't certain people. Like, look, this is what happened and not something else. See, didn't make it home or something. April, there's the email. If you need to send anything to me, by all means, or got any questions, send me the email. Thank you for posting that, April. Song in my heart. Good job, Robert. Undercover agents. April, hit the like button and subscribe, everybody. Brenda, I'm also neighborhood watch. There you go. Those are very important, no doubt about it. Norma, thank you, April. Norma, yes, Didi, well said. Brenda said hi. Porch guy could have been promised something in exchange for doing it. That is so true. So then he's a part. He's an accessory to this kidnapping or whatever the involuntary mass. He's a part of the crime, no doubt about it. Absolutely. Soaring energy, morning all. What if all the evidence points to Tommaso and that's why they don't have any other suspects? That's a very good point, Soaring energy. Song, I think when family went over to Nancy's house to check on her, they popped the doors open, the gate open to further mess up scene. I think propping the doors open was an afterthought. Could have been. Very well could have been, Song. Little Red Bee, I never said it made sense taking the elderly and alien woman doesn't make sense either, in my opinion. I agree with that. Ellie Cat, Little Red Bee, good point about making it look like it wasn't. But that makes the perp still just involved. Absolutely. A song. I think the camera guy was there. The camera guy was there previous night, so vehicles would not be seen when she was taken. This is a very possible song. Brenda, I think, in my opinion, that the porch guys purposely knew that the house purposely knew Nancy, her routine, everything. I think somehow, some way, the perp is connected to the family. Very possible. Very possible, Brenda. Song says maybe the perp was in Tommaso's truck when he dropped Nancy off. He pulled farther down the driveway, popped the trunk, and the guy got out. That's very possible. Very good scenarios, no doubt. Song, you're right. He wouldn't be able to carry her alone. He would need something with wheels. Brenda, a song. If the perp came out of Tommaso's trunk, how was he going to carry Nancy, especially when you're dead weight, when you're 157 pounds, you feel heavier than what you think? That's a very good point. So true, Brenda. Song, hey, everyone check the top of your chat filter. Make sure you're seeing all messages. Song, like I've said before, the pool lounge chair have a very big spoked wheels. Song, maybe they consider using the pool lounge chairs to move her, and that's why the back doors were propped open. But they didn't realize how it would be far too difficult. Little Red B, if I have my chat on all messages, yet I don't see all, maybe blocked. April, there's my email again. Brenda, a song, yes, that has four wheels. The tracks were side by side tracks. Brenda, Little Red B, I see you. Song, I see you, Little Red B. I noticed my iPad chat and my TV chat have different messages sometimes. Brenda, Double Dog, they did say the FBI said they're looking for a white Kia Soul. Yes, they did. I remember that. No doubt about it. And who had a white Kia Soul? Remember? I think it was Lopez. I think what was his last name? The guy that was trying to get with the double backpack, trying to get into that back of that house with that fence. And then when Doug goes live Northport, he expanded it. Back here, you could see him walking away towards. There was a white Kia Soul parked right there. Coincidence? Man, who knows? I don't think it's a coincidence, but it's possible. But yeah, you're right. Carol, gotta go to Costco. See y'all later. All right, Carol, thank you for stopping by. I don't think Sue Ellen was a part of what happened. I wonder at one point, but she's nervous and anxious a lot. We don't know if that's just the way she is or she could know something or otherwise. That is very true, El. Very true. Little Red Bee, Brenda, I see you too, but Lisa disappeared one day. Brenda, well, I don't understand is why the HOA did not have the neighborhood watch knowing that there's a crime in Tucson, Arizona. Good point. Erica's in the house. Erica, morning, fellas. Good morning. Angela, Stat Safe Carol. Stat Safe Carol. Little Red Bee, a song. It's weird. Angela, good morning, Erica. Song. Oh, they have neighborhood watches. That is one noisy group there. Carol, thank you, Angela. Little Red Bee, three levels of law, local, state, and federal. Amen. Jody, it's apparent to me after 3 months there is no lead on a car, on any camera. They got footage from like gas stations, etc. If they did, they put it bolo. Be on the lookout for police. L says, I wish we could have heard more from Burgess. Brenda, Jody, I totally agree with you. Angela, Jody, I agree. Brenda, Double Dog. But what if Nancy knew the person and she let him in? That's a very possible theory there. If Nancy knew the person at the front door, or maybe even the back door, I'm not sure about the back, but if she knew the person, well, yeah, she's going to let him in, not thinking anything. This, like, hey, what happened? What do you need? But yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Song. So they wanted to put her in an assisted living. They put her house up for sale for a brief period of time a couple of years ago, and now she's flat out missing. Sounds like she was a burden to somebody. That's a good point. Very good point. Norma, just a theory. What about the perp staged the blood in front of the door and propped her doors open and took her on the back door or her bedroom door just as a weird thought? Law didn't take the floor mat. That's very probable, Norma. That's very possible. Anything is possible. Soaring. I think we're getting close to finding out exactly what happened here in terms of it being staged. It's not what it looks like to us. It's not like what it's been presented. Little Red Bee, and with Sue Ellen for fourth level of HOA governance. Brenda, Norma, yes, anything is possible at this point. PIT crime investigates. I've not saw any facts that Nancy was even brought back to her home. Allegedly, the crime could have happened before, and the reason the person was so calm could have been staging the scene. That's very possible. It's very possible. PI True Crime investigates. That is very possible, and that theory has been brought up several times. We have brought that up several times. Many retired LEs say this is unlike any other crime that's ever been committed. And you know what, El? I would go as far as to say the reason why this is like any other crime that hasn't been committed is because I believe the whole purpose, in my opinion, was literally taking someone, kidnapping someone for ransom, and then that person becomes unalive, and everybody is panicking, and now the plans have changed, and you have so many things that are happening that are not normal. Decisions are being made at this, like right there on the fly, and that's usually when you make mistakes. So we could be seeing a lot of things happening, basically a lack of control of what the plan was. And that's why it's not making sense. Very possible. Very good point. Celtic Fan Neighborhood Watch did a crappy job. I totally agree with that, Celtic Pet. Brenda 857, that the red light camera that they have was not working at the time that Nancy was taken, and they came right from 857 who lives in Tucson. It's very possible. Celtic Pet, the dog. Click that like, everybody. Click that like. And if you are here, please subscribe to the channel. Be a double pup investigator. A tenacious investigator at that. L, I think Neighborhood Watch is more like Neighborhood Click or Gossip Group in this community. You very could be right there. I tend to agree with that one. Nice, L. Angela, Brenda, that is strange. Brenda, L, I'm in the Neighborhood Watch, and we are trained by law enforcement. We are not there to gossip. Well, and no one's saying that you're there to gossip, Brenda, but there is that. I mean, I know how the Neighborhood Watch works, and I totally know that you do. They do have classes that they go through to show you what cops go through and how to look for things and how to see things. So, yeah, no doubt about it. They're definitely there to help, usually. L, Brenda, Neighborhood Watch is that community or somewhere else. Norma, yes, well said, DD. Brenda, L, 1985, that is where the community comes together to actually fight crime. Amen. See, it's called community policing. It's community policing. It's law enforcement utilizing the community to help solve crimes. And that's what you got to have in every area, every city. Everybody, every police department should always have a community policing where they're getting the help from the community to help solve the crimes. That's what it's all about, in all honesty. Yes, Brenda, I know, but I was talking about that community, not everywhere. Angela, Brenda, we don't have Neighborhood Watch, but believe me, we all watch our neighborhood. Aid, apparently the community don't care if perp or perps are around. Makes no sense. All right, Alley Cat, where are you at? Tell me what you're thinking, because you said something about you were confused. I am caught up now with all the comments. So the idea that the perp was out there, Brenda, Angela, if you want to join Neighborhood Watch, call your local non-emergency number and join. That is true. Most departments have them. Like I said, it's a benefit to the community, and it's a help. It's a help to your local law enforcement because they can't be everywhere and see everything, but they can always have eyes everywhere if they have a community watch party, or they have someone who's they all takes different shifts and they kind of just keep an eye on things. Norma DD, just a question: did Nanos resign? Not to my knowledge. He needs to, but not to my knowledge, in my opinion. L, we have them only in certain areas. You'll have them a lot in either high crime areas or very wealthy areas. You'll have them, but mainly in high crime areas because everybody is fed up with the crimes happening in their neighborhoods that they finally just take a stand and say, hey, I want to help. We need to stop this from happening. And that's usually how they begin. Norma, okay, thank you, Dee. You're very welcome, Norma. L, cameras these days should be able to help with cutting down the crime, you think. Yeah, no doubt about that. April, that's why I think SE and Nano are in each other's pocket, as to say. That's very possible, April. Marianne, Norma, somehow someone in somebody chat said that, but I don't think so. Brenda, in my opinion, Nanos will not be fired. He's going to stay there until he retires because that's how they are in Tucson. Very possible. Lisa with the laughs. April, whoever I protect, the other will. Sounds good to me, April. So that's the whole thing we're dealing with. We're dealing with literally the perp. Man, do we have some really great questions. Very great questions. Um, yeah, very good questions. April, someone said the other day in someone's live that they called the Sue Ellen and the police department said, again, laughing out loud, I don't know how true that is. April, not one, not I. Got you. Norma, Marianne, I heard this just morning on a YouTuber. This is why I was asking. You're good, Norma. You are good. Ask away. I will try to give you the best answer that I have. No doubt about it. Norma Sutherland is. So now we get back to the guy at the porch. You know, he was there. You know, some are saying he was just there as a maybe the plans changed because somebody became unalive, and his job literally now was to go ahead and make sure everything was cleared in the front with that camera because there was no it was easier to get her out through the front door. I mean, that is where the blood splatters are at, the blood spots, you know. So it really just depends, honestly. It just depends really on what his purpose there. The one thing's for sure that he took his sweet old time. He took his sweet old time to go ahead and do everything that he was going to do. No doubt about it. Song. I've even thought that T is texting himself from a burner phone. Very possible. Very possible. I mean, there's so many different scenarios that could be happening. So many different takes on this. And it's because we're not getting any information, so we're speculating on what. I mean, you guys got great opinions and great ideas and great questions. No doubt about it. Didi, was there two persons at the porch? One looks like a woman, I, and the other a man. Well, they're saying that. Now, I have heard one person, streamers that are saying that that one person is the same person. Okay. And I have heard that law enforcement has put out that those two photos are from different days. Then I've heard law enforcement also say that those two photos are from the same day. Honestly, I haven't really got a clear answer, to be honest. I know they're saying the one without the backpack was from a different day earlier, and the one with the backpack was there that day, that current day when Nancy was taken. I don't even know how to answer that, to be honest, because I just did. It was there two persons. There was. It looks like the same guy. One's a little bit thinner, but Maybe that's because he didn't eat the night before. I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know. All I know is you're right, Al. The Porsche guy did not look worried at all, like he had all the time in the world. My prayers continue for Nancy till she is found and brought home. Amen. Well said, Norma. Song. Lack of information is driving me crazy. Where's the ring cam footage of Nancy at Annie's house the night before? Who else was at the party the night before? Who was the last to see her or talk to her? All valid and good questions. April, in my opinion, the perp knew the house and the way around at the time of night, even with a full moon, just to walk around there. Things would have been disturbed if not. Very true. Very true. Song, besides the Lyft driver, who saw her prior to that and where? Yeah, that Uber driver was the last one to see her, dropped her off at the house. She walked in, and the rest was that. Little Red Bee, Dee Dee, what did you see? As in, what happened? Little Red Bee, are you asking me what do I see as to what happened? L, agree, April. Little Red Bee, okay, thanks, Dee Dee. Well, are you asking me? What do I see as in what happened in this case? Is that what you're asking, Little Red Bee? Norma, there's many questions and no answers. Where is Nancy? Angela, Norma, yes, many perks for Nancy, many prayers for Nancy, bringing Nancy home. Alicat, probable cause is necessary for a warrant. Then was the probable cause for take probable cause is necessary for a warrant. Yes. Then was the probable cause for talking in Luke's Daly's mother and Luke in regards to Nancy. Well, they had to have probable cause to actually go ahead. The probable cause was to go ahead and search. They needed a search warrant to search Luke Daly's truck and to search their home. So that's why they had to give a probable cause. Now, they've never stated what that probable cause was. They have never released that to the public. That's public record. And they have never released that to the public as to what they used. Because I've been asking that from day one. What was the probable cause that they used? Is it that maybe Kayla Day, the day before when she was arrested, she gave them information? Because it was the very next day, the 13th, that they went ahead and served him with the search warrant. That was a search warrant. Now, talking to him, they may have talked to him because they had a search warrant and they needed to ask questions. I would think that would fall in the line of that search warrant. But that search warrant was all about searching the property of the house and of Luke Daly's Range Rover. That's what that was all about. Yes. The probable cause, you still have to have probable cause to go into someone's home. Anytime you're getting a warrant for something, you've got to have probable cause. You can't just, you know, nilly willy. I think I answered that question to you, Allie. I think you got it. It's going to specify as regards to talking to Luke. In regards to talking to Luke and his mother, it's going to be in that probable cause. Now, if I go into a house with the search warrant and I serve the warrant and I go into a house and I search it, I'm going to bring in the mom to explain what I'm looking for. Or if I don't want to explain to her what I'm looking for, I'm going to be telling her, hey, we had the search warrant. This is what we did. Oh, by the way, do you know anything about X, Y, and Z? And then ascertain like that. That's usually how they rub together. Daily, the same way. Hey, here's a search warrant to go and search a vehicle. Okay, well, you want to search? Is this about Nancy Guthrie? Is you want to search my phone? All that jazz. In that process, in that probable cause, it's going to say, and then they're going to ask you questions. So, hey, where you been? Where you gone? Because that's a part of the questioning of the search warrant. Where's this car? Have you had this car out of state? Have you had this car? Whatever questions they ask. You know what I mean? Norma, April, I strongly believe this was an inside job and knew the layout of the house. Alicat, a song. I have the same question. I need answers. Little Red B, you answered my question. Thank you. Appreciate that. You're very welcome. Marianne, I agree, Norma. Buster Brown, we don't even know if there was a crime committed here. Uh, now that's a little stretch. No doubt about it. Buster, at one point I would have blatantly disagreed, but I'm truly wondering now. Oh, true, Brenda, and who knows how many have already done so. Well, now we're gonna just go ahead and answer the questions as to what do you all think. The reality is that there is not a lot of answers out there. I mean, there's laws, rules, and regulations. There's processes, and then there's just trying to piece the pieces together. Brenda L. In my opinion, thousands, and I mean thousands. This is why the FBI is taking so long to go through all the file calls, videos. All this is why it's taking so long. I can agree with that, Brenda, no doubt. April says cover up, plain and simple, in my opinion. I could definitely see that as well, too. No doubt. This isn't a typical case. There are way too many strange things going on. It doesn't look right. Very well said. Very well said. True, Brenda, says L. Click that like, everybody. Click that like. Hit those hearts. Send those emojis. Let's get it going. Let's build that algorithm. Little Red B says TC and DC and DJ Mojito, Arizona Kayla in custody. Luke swatted. Yeah, that's a lot there, no doubt. Song, read my last question. Besides the Lyft driver, who saw her prior to that? Well, it was an Uber driver. If I'm not mistaken, it was an Uber driver. So besides the Uber driver, who saw her prior to that and where? The only thing I know is she was at her house because that's where the Uber driver picked her up. And then from that point, they drove and she was dropped off at Annie and Tommaso's probably about 15 minutes later. It's only about a 4 or 5 mile drive, but because of all the roads curving and everything, it takes a little longer. So once that Uber driver dropped her off, that's the last known person who has seen her, because we have never seen the son-in-law drop her off at Nancy's. We've never seen that. We've never heard of that. We can speculate that that's what he said they did, but is it? We don't know that. Didi, what did you see? That is the last question because I don't see nothing else. Oh, here you go. I'm sorry. Thank you. Oh, I see a thank you before that. I see a thank you. You're welcome. Read my last question. Yeah, I'm not seeing no question here. I'm not seeing nothing. I just scrolled up, and the next one I come is besides the Lyft driver. Uh, Lack of information is driving me crazy. Where is the ring cam footage of Nancy and Annie's house the night before? Who else was at the party that night before, and who was the last to see and talk to? That was the next question. And I don't know any of those answers there. I don't think Annie has a cam. They had a camera footage of their house. I don't think they had it at the time at their house. I know they just recently got it. I even thought that T is texting himself for a burner phone. I talked about that one. Yeah, I'm not seeing nothing else. So if I missed it, I couldn't have missed it because I just went back. Alec, yeah, sorry. I had it paused and got behind in the chat. I'm at work laughing out. No problem, Alec. You're fine. Brenda, Alec, you're fine. Buster, both yes. L, absolutely, Brenda. Yes, Buster, the way I see it. Okay, so that's where we're at. I'm all caught up. What time is Bree leaving?
She's got to take off.
You want me to take her now? All right, everybody. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to have to end this live. I'm going to have to end this live. Just want to let everybody know. Thank you so much. Appreciate all of you. Thank you for coming. I'll be back at 5. Got to take care of some things on my end. So there's the April just posted the email. Alicat, be safe, DD. Thank you so much, Alicat. I hope we were able to resolve some of these questions. All great questions, by the way. Everybody, you guys had some fantastic questions, and I thank you all. Thank you for being here, DD, covering this. You're very welcome. Thank you for the stream. Take care, says L. You got it. Thank you, April. Thank you, Paige, and everyone else. Brenda, thank you. Simplify, stay safe, Devil Dog, and mods, and everyone here. You got it. Marianne, see you later. Be back at 5. We can finish up what we started here. Like and subscribe. Thank you all. Make sure you guys let everybody else know about the channel. Let's get this thing out there. Thank you, DD and chat, for another great live stream coverage. You got it, Norma. Groundski, just listening today. You're good, Groundski. You are good, my friend. All right, everybody. God bless. Take care. I'll see you guys at 5. Remember, it's all common sense, everybody. Everything is common sense. God bless. Simplify.
Good job.